republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Mr. Krasansky.
Mr. Bonomo.
Here.
Mr. Chapman.
Here.
Dr. Childs.
Here.
Mr. Early.
Here.
Mr. John.
Present.
Mr. Mahala.
Here.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Here.
Mr. Wallace.
Here.
Ms. Yannick.
Here.
Announcement of executive sessions held as follows. July 30th, 2015, personnel. Public announcements and recognition. Dr. Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. I'm reading a letter from one of our students to the board. My name is Deanna Fox, and I am one of 2 students from the Hazleton Area School District who competed at the National HOSA Conference in Anaheim, California. I want to thank you for allowing me to have this amazing experience. HOSA has helped me have more confidence in myself and realize that you can achieve so much more when you believe in yourself. I attend the Hazleton Area Academy of Sciences, and HOSA was a new club available to us this school year. HOSA is a great club for students who are looking to pursue a career in the healthcare field. I am honored that I have had the opportunity to represent the Academy of Sciences and the Hazleton Area School District at the National Conference and greatly appreciate that you have given me this chance to do so. Thank you again for making this educational opportunity possible. Sincerely, Deanna Fox.
Okay, one other announcement before we go to public comment. Items number 1 and 61 are going to be removed from the agenda for tonight. Number 1 and number 61. Mr. Bonomo, any public comment?
Teresa Redwinski.
If you would please state your name and address and the item that you'll be speaking about.
Yes, Teresa Redwinski, Drums, Pennsylvania, and I am the support staff president. I just have a question, item number 60. Can you tell me what the current salary of Mrs. Barrett is?
Off the top of my head, it's around in between 58 and 59,000.
So she's getting about a $12,000 raise,
Over 10.
over $10,000.
That didn't change.
Okay, great. And we're eliminating positions and giving people $10,000 raises. I think we have a should really take a stronger look at that. Also, number 14, I just want to remind the board that we do have a working MOU on this and that we need to follow that as we proceed with these positions. That's it.
Renee Fort.
So it's on a non-agenda item then, Mrs. Fort? Okay. Can we do it? Okay, that's fine.
Marianne Mollandine.
Miriam Molandini, Drums, Pennsylvania. I'd like a little information on item number 43, the resolution for the Peacers pension reform.
Ms. Mollandine, we prepared that, actually just completed it today. Many of the school districts across the state have already engaged in this, and we're basically jumping on the bandwagon. What we're doing with this particular resolution is identifying the increase in PEACER costs to the district for the next 5 years. Hopefully showing to the governor, how this is going to impact our district. I did put the numbers and I made it available to the board earlier today on board docs. And there are many variables that we can't conclude at this time, as any additional positions that we hire or the increase in anyone's salaries. So what I used was the current 15-16 base year and just multiplied it by the increase in the PEACERS rate going forward. And you could see by the document it's a substantial increase over the course of time.
So this is something that other districts are putting petition together toward the state so they understand what the implications are?
Appealing to the state, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
For help.
That's it. Mr. President, that's it? Yep.
Let's see, approved board meeting minutes, regular board meeting, June 25th, 2015.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comment, Mr.? Roll call, I'm sorry, roll call.
All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes.
Approved treasury report for June 2015.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
All in favor of approving the treasury report, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes.
Okay, at this time, I'll turn the program over to Dr. Butler.
Under curriculum and instruction, approve items 2 through 20 with one motion.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Yes, are we taking 1B off, or are we just limiting that to 1A?
I believe we
Taking it off.
We remove
eliminate the
both?
whole thing,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes, two items. Numbers 13, excuse me, I'm looking at the old agenda. Hold on one second here. I'd like to thank Mr. Patron for the work that you folks are doing in setting up after-school tutoring at the high school. I think that's particularly important. I also, although I am delighted that we're purchasing laptop computers, once again, I would hope that somewhere through grant programs or otherwise, we begin to look at internet services in homes that don't have that. That is a major, major issue regarding dealing with homework situations as they currently exist.
Thank you.
Anything else, Dr. Childs?
I think that will do it. Thank you.
Okay, roll call.
All in favor of approving number 2 through number 20, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes.
Special education, ESL, alternative education, approve items 21 through 23 with one motion.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? Mr. Krasansky?
All in favor of approving motions 21 through 23, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes.
24, under nutrition, recommend board approve the cafeteria transfer of Karen Raschuti at HAAS 6.25 hours. This is an open position and rate is based on the HAESPA contract.
So moved.
moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? Mr. Krasansky?
All in favor of approving item number 24, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes.
Number 25, under transportation, recommend board approve a contract between HASD and Maureen Jordan for the transportation of 2 students to and from St. Jerome Regional School to Makwa at a rate of .575 per mile.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? Mr. Krasansky?
All in favor of approving item number 25, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes.
Item number 26, under technology, recommend board approve the purchase of 108 HP thin client computer devices from Integra One at a cost not to exceed $35,800. 60 devices will be funded from the 14-15 technology budget, and 48 will be funded from the local HACC general fund budget.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? Mr. Krasansky?
All in favor of approving item number 26, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes.
Student activities, athletics, and extracurricular, approve items 27 through 29 with one motion.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments?
I especially want to commend Mr. Drumheller, who always had the kids' best interest at heart, and the fact that he's willing to come back and help the new coach with the program speaks volumes for the character of the man that he
I would
is.
second that.
Third.
Do I have a fourth?
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Krasansky?
All in favor of approving items 27 through 29 with one motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes.
Facilities and capital projects, approve items 30 through 35 with one motion.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Question on number 34, Mr. Krasansky or Mr. Gunshore. You explain a little bit more in detail this change order?
Yes, it's for the repair of the foundation wall up at the castle where the trailers used to be situated. Because we chose not to proceed with the facade restoration,
Was this I expect was a bid-it contract, correct? Prior, the right, okay. Was this something that could have or should have been foreseen prior to needing a change order?
This would have been part of the facade restoration.
Right,
But because we're not undertaking that now, and we are doing the site improvements, repair the wall, the area of the site improvements, we would still have open joints and bricks. So that's why we're.
so it should have been part of the original scope of this work, shouldn't it? Because the facade would be,
Not the site improvements. We were going to do the site improvements. and the
Right.
facade in conjunction with each other.
right,
But because we're not doing the facade restoration at this time, this area needed to be addressed at this time because of the site improvement.
right. And not, I'm not trying to be difficult, especially with you, Mr. Gunshore. But if this is something that if we do not do, that further water damage, right. So then it should not have been a part of the original facade because that was something that was apparently not needed if we're not doing it right now. This should have always been a part of the scope of what they were bidding that needed to be done. Otherwise, further damage could have taken place.
Well, no, this is in the area of the elevator
Uh-huh.
where we were having severe water.
Right,
There are other areas of the foundation that are in need of repair but aren't as severe as this area.
right.
So that's why it's decided to do this at this time.
Yeah, so again, try not to be difficult, this should have been part of the original bid for that work. Because if it's something that can't be held off, if we knew it couldn't be held off, there's absolutely no reason it was bid as part of the facade.
Originally, we thought we were going to be doing that this summer.
Yeah. Okay,
What bothers me is less than a month ago, we barely passed the budget, and we come into our first meeting after that, and 31 through 35, we have almost $80,000 in change orders already. And it just seems like it never ends.
But Mr. Gunshore, what would happen if we didn't do that? Specifically, can you tell us? Yeah.
Get water infiltration, possible flooding of the.
In the parts that you're repairing right now. So
Right,
we'd be
and-
doing
and-
that over again.
No, do it now.
Yeah, but if we didn't do it now, the part you're repairing, we'd have to do over again at some point.
Do over the site work. It's just the wall
Okay.
would allow water to infiltrate into the elevator pit, flood the elevator.
right, and Mr. President, again, and I will admit I know very little about this. My point is, we knew that this was going to need to be done. We were talking about the facade being done, which apparently is not a priority, because if it was, there's not a person on this board that would say no to it. So if we knew that the potential for further damage, or as Mr. Gunshore, who I have a lot of faith in, is stating, we could flood out that elevator, which would be a real difficult safety hazard, especially if you're someone that needs that elevator. This should never, ever have been part of a scope of work that was, negotiable for us to do or not do. It should have been part of the original site work. And then at that point, maybe the bidding would have been different. So I'm going to vote no because of that situation.
Any other comments on that? Okay, roll call.
Okay. Approve items 30 through 35 in one motion, say aye.
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 No on 34.
No on 34.
No on 31, 32, 33, 34, and 35A.
Let me just read these back to you, please. Mr. John and Mr. Mahalik are no on 34, and Mr. Wallace is no on 31 through 34 and 35A.
That is correct.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Finance approve items 36 through 41 with one motion.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? Mr. Krasansky?
Approve items 36 through 41 with one motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes.
42, recommend board approve the following bids, request for qualifications and/or request for proposals.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? Mr. Krasansky?
Approve item number 42 with one motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes.
43, recommend board approve the attached resolution for Peasers pension reform.
So move.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Mr. Chapman, I just want to make just a clarification on 43. There was a call about 2 months ago by a Lehigh Valley school district, a call of action for all school districts to withhold PSERS payments, and they recommended that every single school district does that. I don't think that we should do that. PSBA has said don't do that, and I just want to be clear that they were not advocating for that. We're not supporting their plan in any way, shape, or form with this asterisk here.
A good point, Mr. O'Donnell. Any other questions or comments?
Just my comment of once again stressing that while the state and in some cases districts failed their area of responsibility as it related to the PSERS, the employees continued to have their PSERS deducted year after year after year after year. What put us in this situation clearly was not the deductions from the personal employees. It was the state, and again, some districts thinking that they had more money than that could ever be spent. Clearly a tremendous undersight or oversight. Someone should be held responsible, and it infuriates me that we always are pointing fingers at the hardworking people that have been paying their fair share to this PSERS.
Thank you.
Thank you, whoever that was. My mom. Thank you, Mom.
Are you sure?
Well, my neighbor at one point.
Any other questions
Anyway.
or comments? Mr. Krasansky, before I lose it.
To approve item number 43, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes.
And 44, recommend board approve the Lehigh Valley Hospital Hazleton agreement.
Second.
Questions or comments? Mr. Krasansky?
Approve item number 44 with one motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Ayes have it, motion passes.
45, payment of bills.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments on the bills? Mr. Krasansky?
To approve the payment of bills, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No one. C.
Noted, Mr. Early. Ayes have it, motion passes.
Superintendent's agenda, approve items 46 through 58 with one motion.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Yes, a couple of questions, if I may, please. Number 52, what is the effect on staffing for that building at the time? I have no problem with granting an unpaid leave, but I do have a question with regards to how you're going to compensate in terms of personnel.
What number was that, Doc?
That was number
That's-
52, I think. I hope it was.
Number 52. Mr. Donati, would you be able to comment on number 52 with regard to paraprofessional at the Early Learning Center?
You're asking what? How will she?
Yes, what I'm saying is that I have no problem with granting an unpaid leave. My problem is you're missing a person now at that building. You're missing a person at that site.
We would have to have somebody come in.
Okay, so you're talking about a long-term sub or something?
Yes, sir. That's how we'd have to do it.
Okay. And let's see, I recognize, unfortunately, the names of some of the people who are going to be leaving, Mr. Kugelman, Mrs. Bognet, Mrs. Miller. Those I know personally, and I'm very, very sorry to see those leaving our district. They've all contributed a great deal. I guess time just moves, but I'm sorry to see that.
And Dr. Childs, we've expressed our thanks and appreciation for particularly our resignations here with regard to their service to the district and our children.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Krasansky?
To approve items 46 through 58 in one motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes.
59, recommend board appoint Deanna Romero for the position of General Secretary, HASD Administration Building Receptionist, at a salary of $23,358.40 as per the contract.
So move. Second.
Questions or comments?
So this is a replacement position.
Correct.
So absolutely no more strain on our current
No,
budget.
no,
Correct.
correct. And this is the front lobby position in our administration building, Mr. Mahalik.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Krasansky?
To approve item number 59 with one motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes.
60, recommend board approve an increase in salary for Jessica Barrett, Personnel Benefits Supervisor, to $70,000 effective July 1st, 2015.
Mr. President, I would like to explain this to the public. We are not replacing the human resource person. We are extending more duties to Mrs. Barrett for $10,000. And I believe, Mr. Krasansky, we're going to be saving about $130,000 by not replacing the human resource person.
That is correct.
Even though it's a big pay raise, we're looking at the amount of duties she's going to accumulate.
Mr.
And-
President, it hasn't been moved and seconded.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sorry.
true. I'm sorry. Well,
I'm sorry, I'm not used to this.
you're not used to it. How about a motion and a second?
I'll make the motion.
We need a second.
Second?
Go ahead,
Okay,
finish
I'll pick up
now.
where I left off at. It's definitely a savings of about $130,000 to the school district. She's going to get an awful lot more duties and assignments to her, and I think $10,000 is great for her. It's probably not enough, but it's going to save us a ton of money. And I think maybe that might explain why we're doing this. I hope it does, because it's not for any other reason than to save the school district money. Because if you saw the people in McAdoo and Schuylkill County, their average taxes went up almost $80 for school district taxes. Can't afford it. And we can't afford to add more positions. We have to try to take away where we can to save more money. I'm sorry for not doing it right, Mr. Chapman.
And Mr. John, excuse me, Mr. President, if I may add to that, in addition, we did not replace Dr. Butler's position. And the reason why Dr. Butler read this evening and left the last piece of that off, approved the revised job description, we still are currently trying to divvy up some of the duties that Mrs. McHale left behind, some to Mr. Donati, some to Dr. Butler, and the bulk of them to Ms. Barrett. So that will be voted on at our next meeting, but that is the reason for that removal. And if you add that savings into it of not replacing Dr. Butler's position, you're talking a considerable amount more money also.
Absolutely.
And Mr. John explained that very well, as did Mr. Krasansky. And I was coming in tonight voting no on 60 and 61 because it was my theory that I think we need an HR person. And I would have liked to have gone through the process first. My no vote is not directed at Mrs. Barrett at all this evening. This evening, but mine is until I see the job description and who's going to actually be doing what. I'll hold off my endorsement of it until that actually comes through. So my no vote tonight will be based upon wanting to actually see what duties will be divided among all the people in the central office.
Any other questions or
Yeah,
comments?
I'm going to, again, I agree completely with Mr. John and the work that Mrs. Barrett has done. You know, but I echo what Mr. Wallace is stating. You know, if she's doing HR, then she should be HR supervisor, director, whatever we're calling it. You know, my concern is it's a very, very large position, as we've learned, and as we'll probably learn in a couple months when we start seeing some of the fallbacks of when we make improper decisions in that office, that it comes on a very big cost, a very big cost to us. Can she do HR completely, top to bottom, as it is? And we do not need to replace her with another position. And if you can't answer, I don't want to put anybody in the spot, but that's what it comes down to. Can HR function effectively, efficiently, and appropriately, and yet still the responsibility she had does not lack? Because if it can, it's definitely got my support. If we have any doubt that it might not, and that we might have to come back here August, September, and hire, you know, a $40,000 position, then I think Mrs. Redwinski's, you know, her comment tonight was extremely accurate.
And Mr. Mahalik, you did a very nice job explaining my position better than I did.
And Mr. Mahalik, I would just comment by saying Ms. Barrett has already taken on a significant volume of work that we've asked her to do just because we want to keep the ball rolling and with regard to personnel. And the second answer, or second response to your question would be that with the duties that Mr. Donati and I will be absorbing relative to the higher profile personnel work, of which we've already had some in the last month, in answer to your question, I think we're suited to move ahead.
Yeah, and Dr. Butler, this is by no means questioning whether Mrs. Barrett is capable of doing this. This is not about her. I think this is about how Mr. Mahalik said, the actual position, and to be able to do the HR job and her job is monumental, all right, to try to get both of them done. And before we would hire an assistant coming in, I would still rather have an HR person, maybe it would be her, and somebody in her position. And I just don't want to see what Bobby said a couple of months down the road, coming back and saying, listen, we miscalculated, we do have to bring that other person on board. That's my only concern.
Mr. Wallace, I think if you remember correctly, when Mr. Donati and Dr. Butler decided to take on more duties, we said we'd wait till January to see how it worked out. And if it didn't work out at that point in time, we may go in and appoint somebody else to come in and help in whatever capacity. At least we would save 6 months' salary towards the budget. And I think this would be the same type of situation where if it's necessary, Bob, we would come back in January and say, yeah, we can't do this. We have to hire somebody, a human resource person. And maybe it would be Jessica, because she'll have her foot in the door, she'll be doing the work. But I would like to give her the opportunity to see if it will work. And if it doesn't, we certainly commit we were wrong and go back and revote to create a position. But at least we'll save 6 months' salary.
Anything
Mr.
else,
President,
Brian?
I'll be voting no as well, for a lot of the same reasons as Mr. Wallace and Mr. Mahalik. I don't think in a school district of our size, $120 million a year budget, 1,600 to 1,800 employees, we can afford not to have an HR director. And I don't mean somebody that's put into the position, I mean somebody that has the education in it. You look at your colleges and universities, they're offering the master's programs in human resources management because this is an area that could come back and bite the district, which we've seen. We just sat in executive session and heard about how things were done improperly, and it's gonna come back and bite the district. I don't think this is a position, I pushed for the HR position years ago. I don't think it's where we combine it with a benefits coordinator. It needs to be its own freestanding position within the district. I don't think it's fair to the district employees or to the board or to the public.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Then we're going to do an individual roll call on this.
To approve number 60, removing the, and approve the revised job description portion of it, Mr. Bonomo,
Yes.
Dr. Childs,
Yes.
Mr. Early,
No.
Mr. John,
Yes.
Mr. Mahalik,
I'm voting no on the position. This is not no against the staff member specifically. No on the position. It needs an HR position.
Mr. O'Donnell,
No.
Mr. Wallace,
I echo Mr. Mahalik's sentiments, no.
Ms. Yannick,
Yes.
Mr. Chapman.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-4.
Number 62, recommend board approve the job description, posting, and advertisement for the financial secretary in the practical nursing adult education program.
We need a motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Questions or comments?
Is this in our budget? Is this a budgeted position?
Yes, this is a replacement position. We have a person who is resigning.
Leaving it. Any other comments? Mr. Krasansky?
To approve item number 62, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes.
63, recommend board appoint Joseph Stefanko as band director at Hazleton Area High School effective July 31st, 2015. This includes the extracurricular activity salary in the amount of $5,996 per contract.
Question, or go ahead, Mr. Krasansky. I need a motion.
I made a motion.
Questions or comments?
Yes, just to mention briefly, the band program here has been like a second family for many, many, many of our students. Highly respected. Over the years has done very, very well. I am thankful that Mr. Stefanko is taking it on, and I wish him the best.
Any other comments?
Just my son had played with the honors band program up at the high school, and Mr. Fort was always the consummate professional. And he did a great job with the kids.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chapman, may I add, from a previous band director standpoint, I echo the compliments that Mr. Ford is receiving this evening. And it's a loss to the high school. I didn't think we'd be in this position, but we certainly appreciate Neil Fort's, with everything he's done for our students over many, many years, and the program, and what pride and enthusiasm and spirit has brought to our high school.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. Krasansky?
Approve item number 63 with one motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes.
64, recommend board approve the resignation of Carolina Santana, bilingual community liaison, West Hazleton Elementary Middle School, effective 8/8.
Second.
Questions or comments? Mr. Krasansky?
Once again,
Doc,
just
go ahead.
Once again, just to mention that what I mentioned before, I'm hoping we can look very, very carefully at the structure that we have for our aides at this point in time. They need to play a role in a bilingual environment in our classrooms, and they should be rewarded as such.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. Krasansky?
Approve item number 64 with one motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes.
65, recommend board approve a medical leave for 001, Vice Principal
So moved.
Soledad Mitchell.
Did we get a second? I didn't hear it.
Second. Yes.
Okay. Questions or comments? Mr. Krasansky?
All in favor of approving motion number 65, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes.
66, recommend board accept the resignation of Dr. Christopher Lake, Administration Building Supervisor of Federal Programs.
So move.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Effective link.
Yeah, effective one.
The effective date, I would work that out with Dr. Lake relative to the transition activities that we talked about in executive session. If you're looking for a recommended date, I can give you one now.
Please do. Just for the record, I think that's.
Yeah, I think that would be following Friday, a week from tomorrow.
Bless you.
God bless you.
I would just like to make a comment. I've worked with Dr. Lake over the course of the last couple of years, actually, on ESL programs and others. I found him to be very professional with a lot of very good ideas, and I'll miss him.
Thank you, Dr. Childs. Anyone else? Mr.
We're going
Krasansky?
with 8/7 is the effective date?
Yes.
Next Friday?
Yes, Mr. Early.
Mr. Krasansky?
All in favor of approving item number 66, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes.
And recommend board approve the agreement between Hazleton Area School District and the Safety Net Counseling Incorporated, pending approval by Attorney Slusser.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? Mr. Krasansky?
All in favor of approving item number 67, one motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes.
And recommend board approve the following tenure list.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? Mr. Krasansky?
All in favor of approving item number 68 with one motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes.
Do we have any other
Mr. President,
comments?
yeah, just one comment, if I may. Dr. Butler, if you could extend a thank you to the young lady you mentioned earlier, I think it's Miss Fox, for taking the time out of her summer to thank us. Certainly that wasn't necessary. That's the type of things that we should be doing. But the fact that, she took a moment, recognized the fact that, things are tough, and we could have simply said, hey, we're proud of you, and we just can't do it now. But we really appreciate that. If you would pass that along to her administrators and teachers, that means a tremendous lot to me.
Sure will, Mr. Mahakwi. The board also received a typed thank you letter from the other student who attended previous meetings, so I'll do that with both students. Thank you.
Same here to that then, too.
Anything else from the board up here? Any public comment on non-agenda items? Now would be the time. Mrs. Fort. Or agenda items, depending.
Any item.
Renee Ford, Hazleton, PA. At this time, we were hoping Mr. Stefanko would be here. Being a representative, an officer of the Band Parents Association, or as tonight, I guess, the mouthpiece, pun intended, of our officers, we would like to welcome Mr. Stefanko to our band. Hope he restores and continues the pride that's involved with our marching band program and makes our band the pride of the Hazleton area. We hope in the future to see bigger support of our marching Cougars. Our marching Cougars practice all year long. During the summer, more sports, do as well. These kids put their heart and soul into it, and we would love to see a bigger support from the community as far as our marching band, because it is a wonderful program in our fine arts department. And we would also like to acknowledge Rebecca Jackson, a former graduate of the class of 2015, a former marching band member, just notified me a few days ago that she was selected to participate in Temple University's marching band. So good things come out of our program, and we do hope Mr. Stefanko moves our band forward and makes our band the pride of the Hazleton area. And again, we hope that we get bigger support for our marching Cougars. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Fort.
Thank
well
you.
said.
Ms. Ford, may I just say that when I spoke to Mr. Stefanko on the phone, and I think that was yesterday, I've lost track of days, his excitement was off the charts. He was ready to start immediately. And Mr. Patron and I spoke to Mr. Stefanko in detail about our band program. And you have a principal who has pride in every single program that we have at the high school. And believe me, our interest in seeing our band program continue the excellence it's had over the years is right where it needs to be. And I think this young man's coming in with the ultimate level of enthusiasm, and we checked references. I think you're getting a good person there.
Any other public comment on any non-agenda item?
Mr. President, I have a question. Could I ask it?
Yeah.
What would stop you from asking it anyway?
Yeah, what would stop you? Your time's up.
Butler, if we extend Chris Lake another week, or another 2 weeks or 3 weeks, what is that going to afford him? I mean, is he going to be afforded additional medical benefits time-wise? I mean, are we going to be paying for medical benefits that this guy's not even going to be around?
I'm going to refer to Mr. Krasansky on that question, if you don't mind.
Yes, you will. I believe if you work one day in the next month, you would be covered for the entire month.
Thanks.
Dr. Butler, what guarantees do you have that Dr. Lake's going to show up next week for 5 days?
Nothing in writing. That was meant to be humorous.
Okay.
I think, Mr. John, a gentleman's agreement that we need a transition period here, which we spoke about previous to this meeting. I would hope that a gentleman's agreement would take place during the week, that transition would in fact occur with fidelity.
If you feel that confident, I'll go along with you.
I feel pretty confident about that.
Furthermore, if you do not feel confident, the effective date could be changed, I would say, till tomorrow, or till we do have the right to hold for 60 days. So if we feel that there's, a need for extended time, that's why I'm saying maybe, you should.
Visit that, or
I mean,
only because, like, if Mrs. Teeter takes the position, why would we retain Dr. Lake? Is it just for, like, helping her out?
Maybe we should change the date right now then to tomorrow.
Okay, I mean,
I think if I would prefer to give Dr. Lake the benefit of the doubt And if him and Dr. Butler have conferred and everything's going to be smooth, then I see no problem doing that. If it doesn't work out that way, we can address it next week.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace.
Anything else from the board? I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
A second?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.